Hey, I'm Sean Callagy of Callagy Law. A question a lot of clients ask me is, how do I deal with the fact that the judge doesn't care? The judge doesn't care. And the other side's lying. They're the bad guys. Why does the judge not care? It's a tremendously valid question, wildly frustrating, and quite frankly, drives me crazy sometimes. But let me help you understand a little bit more about what a judge's job is, but also say this. There's a wide disparity in the quality of judges and the work that judges do. I have tremendous respect for the profession of being a judge. And in fact, I had the incredible privilege of trying a case in Arizona in front of Judge Campbell, who I would say was the greatest judge that I've ever seen in terms of the work ethic, the acumen, and it inspired me about our legal system. And frankly, I've been in front of judges that I sit there and shake my head and go, like, they don't care. They read the papers, they're not looking at this, and it's wildly upsetting and frustrating. So first, I validate your emotions and frustrations. The power a judge has to influence the outcome of your case is utterly tremendous. But understanding a little bit more about what a judge's job is may help make the psychology and the emotions of how you go through the legal process, which are enormously important, I think become a little bit more clear. So first of all, a judge's job is not in each and every situation to reward the good guy or a good woman and punish the bad guy or good woman, right? That's not the judge's job. The judge is to decide the issue that's in front of him or her. So if you file a motion about discovery, for example, not getting information on time, and they've done a whole bunch of bad things in the case, judges a lot of times are under enormous pressure, and they have too much work. That's the way the system is set up. And so they may have, on that day that they're going to hear your issue, they may have 30 cases, 20 cases on their docket. They have a lot to deal with. And they've been prepared, they go through that stuff, but they're human beings. They don't have as much time to think about your case as you do, and hopefully your lawyer does. And that's why the job your lawyer does is critically important. But there's an important influence component that comes to dealing with judges. And that is making a very artistic level of discernment as your lawyer of how much you want to shape the judge's perspective on who's good and who's bad, who's right and who's wrong globally, and that's important. But it's a question of when and how often. And it's a question really of reading the judge that day. And if the judge is really having a hard time that day and the schedule is really packed, that's not a day. They're human beings. They're not robots. You want to really make important decisions about what to present and not present to them. So that may not be the day to be painting your adversary as a liar. I'll go back to the case in Arizona. Judge Campbell had really specific rules in his courtroom about emotion in the courtroom. And I have my own thoughts on that, and that's a longer story for a different day, but that's not something he wanted to be seeing. Judge Campbell ran a very disciplined courtroom. You weren't allowed to run freely all over. You had to stand at the podium even when you're talking to the jury, and certainly to him. He didn't want characterizations of the adversary, of the evidence, the information, so you have to be very respectful of the approach that a judge like Judge Campbell has in his courtroom. At the same time, there's ways that you can be framing issues over time to be appropriately exposing what's happening that's eventually going to give the judge a very clear perspective. And I'm confident that on issues that we needed the judge to see, the legal positions, the facts, that this judge who worked incredibly hard and all judges who work incredibly hard are going to see it over time. But in any situation, let's say you zipped in a time machine into a motion that's like in the middle of the case, you easily could have sat there if you're our client in Arizona or somewhere else and banged your head off the wall going, they don't care. They're not looking at this. Like, are you kidding me? Like, we keep hearing I'm sick and tired of hearing both sides fighting and arguing, because that's how judges feel a lot of times. It's like if you're dealing with children in your home where the children are yelling, they did it, and they're fighting back and forth. Sometimes parents are just like, shut up, stop, I don't want to hear anymore. So your lawyer's ability to carry that through each motion, each interaction, the entire case with incredibly high level of skill and discernment is widely important. A critique I would have on a lot of the legal profession, though, is either they're the lawyer that pisses off the judge and annoys the judge continuously and just is obstructionist and a jerk the whole time because they're trying to impress their client, but in a lot of ways what they're doing is they're losing the judge and they're losing their respect and credibility of their position. Conversely, you have people who are just always deferential, never say anything because they never even want to risk the slightest degree of irritation to the judge. It's not that either. It's something that's widely in between that changes in every interaction, and that's where it needs to be. For you, the client, again, that can be wildly frustrating, but the question you have to ask yourself is, do I trust my lawyer? Do I feel like they understand and know how to communicate to the judge, and are they answering your questions in a way that makes absolute sense to you? If they're not answering your questions and they're blowing them off and like, just trust me, don't just trust anyone. Don't just trust me. Don't just trust them. This is your case. You deserve to get answers that make sense to you. If you have any questions, even if you're in the middle of the case, you're in the middle of trial, you're on your way to trial, call me. I'm Sean Callagy. We're Callagy. We have two top 100 national jury verdicts between 2014 and 2016 of $27 million and $33 million. Follow us on social media, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Put out great content regularly. It's 201-261-1700. I'm Sean Callagy. Call us now if you're dealing with any of these issues and you're frustrated, or any legal question, quite frankly. Have an awesome day. Thank you.